Okay, good morning everybody. Okay, the Balkan team is there. Well, welcome back to the HEAS Seminar series. We are delighted to have a guest today from Sada University. Our guest is Dario Vujevic, well, a well-known colleague, an expert on the prehistory of the Western Balkans, and the Adriatic region, and in particular for the, let's say, older prehistory. He did his, PhD and pre-graduate studies on Palaeolithic and Mesolithic topics. He worked on the Mousterieux, for example, and he published already 2 books and lots of articles and scientific reports. He did a lot of excavations and field work in the entire region of the Western Balkans, but on the Dalmatian area in particular. So, and we know each other from the fantastic conference of the early Neolithic in Europe. He organized together with our postdoc Sonja Kaczar, and it was a great conference, and we are still looking for the question, or let's say the information on if this conference is going to be published or not, and in which way. However, we had great discussions there, super papers, and we all learned a lot. So, however, today it's Dario Vujevic. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. I hope I won't disappoint you today, dear all. Thank you all for coming here on this not snowy day, but very cold day. I know it wasn't easy to come. A few days ago, I prepared my online version of presentation, and it started like in movies. If you are seeing this, then you don't know that something went wrong with my trip, but luckily nothing went wrong with my trip. We are here, and I hope I won't disappoint you with my lecture. So to cut the long story short, let's go to the Northern Dalmatia area and to see what that recent advances in Paleolithic and Mesolithic research. I must say, we start mostly Paleolithic, a little less Mesolithic, but there are some advances in our research. First, yes. Okay, thank you. Sorry all for this inconvenience. Let's go to Northern Dalmatia area. As you can see, Northern Dalmatia is in the central part of Eastern Adriatic coast. It encompasses that coastal region, bordered on the north by Dinarids or Vujevic mountain, and on the all other area, it's mostly islands of Zadar archipelago. It is one area which is very influenced by Vujevic mountain. During the past, especially during the Pleistocene period, that Vujevic was not just a spatial boundary, but also relief and climatological barrier for this group, which ensured the more favorable conditions on the coastal area. And when you look at those coastal marginal area today, the islands during Pleistocene, the situation was very, very different. Because of the lower sea level, today islands were not the margin, were not the boundary, they were just reefs above the vast northern Adriatic plain. So all of this area looks like, for some scientists, like a perfect place for some Paleolithic hunter-gatherer lifestyle. And why recent advances in the title of this presentation? Well, to answer that, we have to go back in past, not so long in past, just 25 years ago. When you look at the map of Zadar region, when you look at the papers and books published about this period, about the Northern Dalmatian coast, you will see that this part of the Dalmatia was, in Paleolithic and Mesolithic terms, pretty much terra incognita. Don't get me wrong, there are interest for this area. There are projects, there are sites, there are finds, but if you see all of that, mostly of that interest is just some small scale surveys with little finds found during that. Only one cave site was excavated, that is Vagaračka pećina on Velebit Mountain. Stašo Forebacher did that excellent work there, and he excavated some Mesolithic layers, but to tell you honestly, he just scratched the surface of it. So basically, it's just unknown area. And if you look at the finds, I mean, from this period, you can easily fit those finds on few shelves on Archaeological Museum of Zadar, or a few boxes, small boxes on their depot. So it is very, very unknown area. Recently, things started to change. Several projects put their focus on this area. National projects, but also international projects. But more importantly, we started to do large-scale surveys. We started to do the excavations, especially the cave excavation. That situation, that change of focus showed us that what we have here is not Paleolithic and Mesolithic wasteland. That it's part of the Croatian coast that is full of sites. But you already know that there are no empty maps on archaeological big map. We just have to know where to look, and we just have to lost a lot of time and effort to fill the gaps. And in last 20 years, that map that was mostly empty is now filled with dots. You can see that number of cave sites that are only cave sites that were excavated at some point has grown drastically. Some of these caves, like Cave Vlakno, that's that one on the left bottom corner, positioned on the global level. So it's not just a small test trenching or some small scale excavation that we are doing on Northern Dalmatia. Some of the sites became really, really important and really, really popular. But to do that, we had to go back and do the basic thing. First, we needed to do the surveys, to finish the surveys. Šime Batović, Mirko Malez helps us with that. Chapman also with his project Neothermal Dalmatia give us some insight where to search for Paleolithic sites. And after the few seasons of surveys, thanks to some archaeological amateurs, I must say that, and thanks to the archaeological surveys, today we know that there are over 30 sites just around Zadar area with lots of Paleolithic finds. For now, we don't have settlements, but I must be honest, we never excavated most of these sites. There are few of them that show potential for future work, but for now, we think of those sites mostly as sites on or close to raw material source, where the Paleolithic groups came and picked the lithic material, did some work there, and left us the traces of that work. The big percentage of these sites are open air sites, but there are few caves around. Parallel with that work, my colleague Zlatko Perhoć did an excellent job of surveying this area for raw material sources. Now he mapped the entire region. He collected the samples, and now we have lot of possibility to analyze our lithic material and connect it with the raw source outcrop around Zadar region. On these sites, as you can see, you can still find lots of lithic material. Most of this material fits into Mousterian period, so middle Paleolithic period, but there are other periods as well. You can easily find some Upper Paleolithic or Neolithic material on the surface, but it's much rarer than the Mousterian lithic finds. What is happening around Zadar? The area is full of raw material. Small size raw material is present in large quantities at these sites. Therefore, the group that were visiting this area makes it logical to use it for the tools. Even today, you can find many flakes around on deposit or in deposit that are testifying us on site production. Luckily for us, big differences in raw material, in the quality of raw material, but seemingly similar nodules required constant testing of the raw material. So you have large amount of primary waste on that, primary and secondary waste on that site. And because of the small size material, raw material, they were forced to use those primary waste to make the tools. So we have pretty much concept of some micro Mousterian where the just small amount of lithic material exceed 5 or more centimeters in length. So it's small material, but to be honest, all of these groups could do with that material whatever they want. They use it in a way that they would use the large and better quality material. So you have the full palette of Mousterian lithic typology and technology process on these sites. After the surveys, the caves came in focus. Excavation of Vlakno, test excavation of Vlakno in 2004. Excavation in Kličevica, Velika and Mala Pećina somewhere around 2006 opened a whole new world for Paleolithic research. I will talk about Vlakno later, and I won't talk about Velika Pećina in Kličevica because they just recently hit the undisturbed layer, so we still have to wait for the results of that excavations. But these excavations were the starting point for making a new interest in Northern Dalmatia. That was something that attracted me as well. I was young assistant back then, and it was something that attracted me to search for the caves and start my own excavation. That's why today I will tell you about few sites that we found in recent years that we excavated and which are good, which give us lots of potential for interpretation of this period. I will start with the maybe oldest one. It's Pećina na Moražnjem grebenu, or if you want a translation, it's a cave on western reef near the island of Silba. It's, as you can see, the reefs are basically big rocks in the vast sea. When you see it like this, you wouldn't expect to find anything there, let alone some cave, and at least not one with the Paleolithic finds. But change of perspective can give you surprises. So you can see that from different point of view, you can still find, even on these rocks in the middle of the sea, you can find some interesting position. After the tip from one of our colleagues, we visited about collapsed cave. We visited that collapsed cave. I think it was 2016, 17, somewhere like that. And we collected dozens of pottery shards all scattered around, but also large amount of lithic material. We tried to lithic material from different periods. We tried to find the sources of that material inside of the cave, but all we could find is that most of the material, most of the soil from the cave was probably washed out. It was a perfect thing for the first meeting with the cave. I mean, you go there like in a shop. You just go inside. You don't need to excavate anything. You find dozens and dozens of lithic material just waiting for you to collect them. But it's not about the material. We need to find the context of that material. That's why, after the initial surprise and initial luck, it turned to be a disappointing thing not to finding anything useful excavating, because inside the cave there was no soil, or not much soil to be excavated. But we didn't give up. After a few, let's say, point-blank shots with first few tries that didn't make it, we finally hit a good position. That position was somewhere around, let's see, okay, in the entrance of that cave. There was a small plateau in front of the cave with some tree of fig, and it was the only place that had some soil below it. And we tried, who knows, maybe it will happen, and we found, after the few layers of humus, there were undisturbed layers. We even found the remains of some hearth or the fireplace around it, and that gives us a starting point for the undisturbed layers of this cave. Oh. And below it, we found a bunch of these. This is just part. If you are interested in lithics and doing lithics, you will recognize that all of this can be connected with the Mousterian culture, Major Palaeolithic. So basically, they are in the undisturbed layers. The vast majority material is for sure Mousterian provenance. I won't bother you with details, but as you can see, it is like Mousterian should be, flake-based industry with domination of side scrapers and points. And what was also interesting for us is that percentage of use of that material was much larger than on other sites, especially the open-air sites that we surveyed before. And we started to ask why. We're starting to connect the dots to get the insight of this story. What is there and why it is there? I mean, if you look at the reefs today, reef lacks any basic resources for long-term occupation, even a short-term one. There are no sources of groundwater. There is no arable land. There's not even a good anchorage for your boat. So you have to go there when the day is good. If not, then you won't get too near to these reefs. I mean, there are historical data that these reefs were used for some goat keeping, and we have the ceramic, the pottery shards in a cave that is showing us that from time to time people were visiting these reefs, probably for that goat keeping economy. But to tell you the truth, the reefs are only good for some maritime accident. There's lots of sunken ship around reefs today, from Roman period and later, very famous for underwater archaeologists that can witness you that these reefs are no good for making some occupation for longer term. Then, but again, the change of perspective can give you at least some answer. When we turn back the time and lower the sea level as it was in Pleistocene, or it was in time of the Mousterian, like in which most of the finds fits into, then this vast sea around the reefs becomes not vast sea, it becomes a vast valley. And the reefs are becoming a perfect control point for this whole area. So you can easily imagine some hunter-gatherer, hunters, mostly hunters, not gatherers, hunters that go on the top, use that cave for a small term occupational site for some specialized activity that can control the area and use it as some hunting point. I mean, it's easy for me to say a story like that, but we still need to see if the findings fits into such story. If you look at the tables, at the data, if the findings from the Grebeni cave, you can see that there is a high percentage of tools, very low percentage of face. That gives us impression that it is a site for specialized activities, one that people came with pre-prepared inventory, pre-prepared toolkit, and do some basic work on the site. There are lots of fractures. There are lots of intensive processing of lithics. So we know that they did some repairing and preparation of blanks for tools on the site, but not on some base camp level or something like that. It's a very specialized site. And the dominance of scrapers and points us to the hunting and prey processing activities. So everything fits for now into this idea of some logistical camp for specialized activities connected to the hunting and prey processing. Unfortunately, the cave, like reef, also lacks of some decent material to date. To date, the soil is very acid in the cave because of the birds and everything that lives there probably, and we didn't find a single bone in the soil. We managed to date some soil around that fireplace around I showed you before, and we got the date, but it's date somewhere around 22,000, 23, 24,000. It don't fit into the lithic material. But then again, the level that we dated was about this material. We know that material is probably in secondary position, so this date gives us enough information about the time that plateau was formed in front of the cave, but we still are lacking of date from archaeological context. In the next campaign, we are planning maybe some other technique to date the findings. Hopefully, we will succeed. Also, below the cave, there is one small plateau, one bone breccia with the lithic scatters and the bones inside. We believe that it was washed from the cave, probably. Also, we collected some samples from there, some findings, but we still didn't test it. So maybe in the future that could give us an answer on dating this context. The next site I want to show you is the cave in Ždrilo, near Rowanska. Ždrilo is some narrow strait that today connects Velebit Channel and Novigrad Sea. But in the future, it was some river canyon. In Pleistocene period, it was a river canyon with this cave on top of it that can probably control the whole area of today Velebit Channel. We knew for this site from some reports from Šime Batović because he collected some Neolithic pottery on the surface. But beside that, he didn't do much in this cave. and it was just a perfect position to be, let's say, for only to Neolithic to be there. That's why we started to do some test trenching, hoping that besides Neolithic we could find maybe some older periods. First test trench was made in 2021, and first few days were, let's say, disappointing. We found mostly layers created by natural processes, very poor evidence of human occupation, and no Neolithic at all, at least not in the test trench. Just some shells, mussels, and that's it. And I'm always forgetting lots of badger holes. I don't know. You probably saw that work of badgers on your sites. If you are not, I can tell you that badgers can make a really big mess, and the whole cave is full of their holes. I read one paper about the badgers once, that all that we have in that cave, that are, I don't know, dozens and dozens of meters of channels, could be done by only one badger. So you don't need lots of badgers to do the disaster on archaeological site. Luckily for us, below that badger activities, or near that badger activities, we hit some intact layers, even some remains of the heart, or some small fireplace, and the lithic started to appear. That's why that gave us a good material to date this context, and we got the date. Date was 35, 36 calibrated BP. For us it was wow. With this date, the cave in Ždrilo became one of the rare sites of early Upper Paleolithic on whole Eastern Adriatic coast, and regarding Dalmatia, it was the only site from this period. At least one with the confirmed chronology. As you can imagine, this test trench triggered a systematic excavation. We chose nearby area, expanded our excavation, and see if there are more things to be found here. This systematic excavation were a lot different than the test one, because on the first part of the stratigraphic sequence we found not small traces but very large, very thick layers of fumier, dated from early to middle Neolithic period. So there were Neolithic settlement inside. We just didn't have it in our test trench. But since it's not the topic of this lecture, I won't talk to you about Neolithic. If somebody is interested, we can discuss it later. What also surprised us on this site was that Paleolithic stratigraphy was far more better than in a test trench. We found not one or single phase of occupation from early Upper Paleolithic, but 3 phases of Paleolithic occupation of this site. The latest phase was one that probably belongs to Epigravitian or late Upper Paleolithic culture on this Eastern Adriatic coast. End scrapers, thumbnails, and circular black bladelets, everything fits into the Epigravitian, although we didn't date it as a layer. But we have, above it, we have NYT tephra layer that was somewhere around 14.5 thousand years ago, the eruption at Flagrei field. That gives us enough information about this late Upper Paleolithic occupation of the Ždrilo cave. Below it, we found the layers of early Upper Paleolithic one that we already had in test trench. The sedimentation is similar, the deposits were similar. It could easily be connected with the test trench, and also the dates from these layers are mostly identical to the one that we had in our test trench. What we could see is that in this early Upper Paleolithic we have increase in the number of lithic finds. You have increase in the number of bone tools and increase in the number of ornaments. So it was, let's say, late Upper Paleolithic was just a short-term visits to the cave, but it was this early Upper Paleolithic was something more or something longer occupation of this area. Here are some personal ornaments in the form of perforated teeth, wolf, badger, that perfectly fits into the early Upper Paleolithic. One thing that don't fit into this period is lithic material. Although the dates suggest Aurignacian, I must say that we don't have a typical Aurignacian. We have something that don't look like Aurignacian, and we still have to figure out what is happening here. Maybe some local initial Upper Paleolithic transitional industry, like there are a bunch of them around Europe. Maybe this is not Aurignacian, maybe it's very early Gravettian, but I must say the dates are too low for that kind of thinking. But we still have lots of analyze of this material to get an idea what this material really represents. For now, I can say it's probably not Aurignacian. It's something else from that period, but it's not Aurignacian as it should be. And big surprise came after this layer. In test trench, we had sterile soil and bedrock. In this systematic excavation, we have one more layer to go. It was a layer of dark soil with some lithics that didn't fit into the Upper Paleolithic lithic economy. Scrapers and points fit better into Mousterian than into late or early Upper Paleolithic, and the 14C dates confirm that. Date for this layer is, we know it's older than 43,000. We don't know how much older it is for still, but it's definitely Middle Paleolithic layer, occupational layer, and definitely Mousterian layer. So Strilo, from the only site of early Upper Paleolithic in Dalmatia, became the only site in Dalmatia with phases of Middle Paleolithic, early Upper Paleolithic, and even late Upper Paleolithic, and that is giving us a lot of opportunities for future work. This stratigraphy, dates, and everything attracted our colleagues from Italy, and their project Last Neanderthal, and we became a part of this big ERC project. We already did this year some new excavation, but small size excavation, just to collect new samples. What we have in this year basically confirms whatever we said before, but since the analysis are still ongoing and there is lots of work to be done, we still have. I won't talk many about these findings from this last campaign, but it will certainly be very interesting to see what is happening in the future with these sites. Next, and more probably the main star of Northern Dalmatia is Vlakno cave on Dugi Otok. Vlakno cave is situated on Dugi Otok, on this inner side of the island, looking towards Zadar, towards Velebit mountain. It's very interesting, very small but interesting cave, very well protected. Even today with these dry stone walls, they are probably made in 19th or 17th, 16th century, something like that, because there is a quarry nearby. Probably the workers who use that quarry use the cave as well for their work. But in Paleolithic sense, in Mesolithic sense, this was a pretty much perfect place. It is a small cave. Inside you have a gallery about not bigger than this room. It was oriented toward southeast, so it's always on the sunny side. You have a small spring of water in vicinity, just 20-30 meters below the cave. There is still a spring of fresh water that you can use even today. So, like I said, pretty much a perfect place. Zdenko Brusic started the test trench in 2004, and he did some small campaign in 2007 and stopped there. Although there was, even then, with just a small trench meter by meter, there was hundreds and hundreds of lithic pieces that he excavated from this trench. But he stopped with the excavation. At some point, he asked me to replace him and to continue with the work, which was very lucky for me, because the Vlakno turned to be one of the most important sites on Eastern Adriatic coast regarding late Upper Paleolithic and Mesolithic, especially early Mesolithic period. So we did another campaign at 2010, and at 2011 started a systematic occupation. Why is Vlakno so interested? This is the stratigraphic profile from the test trench, and as you can see, there are almost 5 meters of cultural layers without any visible hiatus, and you can trace the human activity in the cave from early Mesolithic or early Holocene, better to say early Holocene, up to, for now, 20,000 years, 19.5 calibrated BP. That was the oldest date that we have from this cave. And preliminary geoarchaeological analysis revealed that human activity is very pronounced in almost all layers. So it's perfect position for the archaeologists who want to know how epigravian communities changed their behavior regarding environmental factors, climate change, through whole epigravian period. Vlakno for now has both phases of epigravian, early epigravian and the late one, and also has a phase from Mesolithic, but we will see that Mesolithic phase is just continuing the tradition of epigravian, so I don't know if the Mesolithic is perfect term for these layers in Vlakno, whether it's some final epigravian or late end of the epigravian. Why I'm saying for now, because Vlakno, when we excavated the test trench, we didn't hit the bedrock. We stopped our excavation because there was no room left to excavate. It was just a small area that was left after the 5 meter of excavation. So we stopped there. So I believe that there are plenty of layers below that to be excavated after we came to that level. We are close now. Systematic excavation stopped this year somewhere around 4.5 meters, so there is just half a meter to go until we hit the level of test trench, and below that there should be plenty of surprises for us. So maybe in the future we won't stop at the early epigravian, we will probably hit some, we are hoping to hit some maybe earlier phases of Paleolithic as well below the epigravian. I don't have time to bother you with the details of Vlakno and to show you the whole picture, but I will just show you a few let's say points from the stratigraphy that that is telling us how Vlakno is interesting for those who are dealing with the Upper Paleolithic way of life. We'll start from the earliest phase. We name it stratum 10, but let's say it's the 10th phase of occupation, the big phase. It's early epigravian phase of Vlakno. Various surface levels were identified with the remains of hearts. That is showing us that epigravian groups came often to this cave, use it often, and use it for longer periods. You have a material that is typical for early epigravian of this area with epigravian tools, but just larger size epigravian tools. Some of them can easily fit into Gravetian as well, but it's not Gravetian, it's early epigravian. During this period, the earliest period, Vlakno was occupied by very mobile communities, very mobile group. Zlatko Perkoč again did the analysis of raw material, and as you can see, for these earliest periods in Vlakno, there is variable amount of material that comes from not from the local sources, but regional or trans-regional. There's lots of material from Italy, especially during this early epigravian phase. About this stratum 10, there is stratum 9, which is also early epigravian, but very different from the previous phase. Stratum 9 represents deviation in the otherwise uniform sedimentation. Layers are mostly sterile clay matrix, and evidence of human activities in these layers are rare. Some lithic artifacts, some animal bones, occasional small hearts, is telling us that people still visiting Vlakno, but for some short-term occupation, probably specialized task. Why is this layer so important? Well, first to say that when we excavated the test trench, we hit these layers. We thought it was some hiatus in stratigraphy. It was completely sterile layer, but when we expand the surface and excavate in a systematic way, we found lots of levels with some small hearts and lots of levels of human occupation, even during this phase. That means that something happened to these groups, to this world, that changed their way of life, changed the way they are using the Adriatic plain, that they are using the Vlakno, but still not in a way that the connections with Vlakno would be broken. So we still have human visits to the cave in a period which is not so good, let's say, for them. And in environmental terms, what do I mean not so good? When you look at the dates for this period, then you can see that perfectly fits into Heinrich Stadial 1 or oldest Dryas A phase, or if you want the Greenland ice core, it's GS 2.1A phase, all very cold phases. In northern parts, very dry, but in the southern parts of Europe, probably very humid phases. So we have epigravian groups, early epigravian groups, who were forced to change their behavior in some way to answer on this environmental change. I mean, don't get me wrong, stratum 9 is basically the same as a stratum 10 in terms of the finds. We have almost identical lithic material, almost identical faunal material and everything else. So it is early epigravian, but it is the period in which the groups were forced to change their way of life. It's a transitional period to the phase that we are calling the late Epigravian. So this stratum in Vlakno is interesting for us because it gives us opportunity to see how these groups reacted to the environmental change, how this group changed their life before the climate change once more and triggered what we are calling the late Epigravian. That's why in the future, I think that research of this layer would be crucial for the transition from early to late Epigravian phase. And we have lots of late Epigravian phases here. They are starting from the next phase, from stratum 8. You have whatever you expected from late Epigravian, typological diversity, back bladelets and similar toolkits, decrease in average size. In early you have the bigger tools, now you have the smaller and smaller ones. You have small changes in lithic material, in raw material as well. There is an increase of material from the hinterland, from the Lika area or similar areas. So that's giving us the idea that maybe after this crisis during the transitional period from early to late Epigravian, the repopulation or reusage of Adriatic plain came not only from the Italian side, like it was known before, but the groups from hinterland also came in probably larger quantities and using that Adriatic plains. Vlakno certainly proves that there are connections with those groups. And from this period, what else can we say is that from this period, Vlakno probably changed its position in Paleolithic network. Before that, Vlakno was a logistical camp, but we are still not sure if it's base camp. From this period, probably it becomes a base camp for a wider area, and it will stay a base camp for a long time. These layers of late Epigravian brought us lots of cultural material, lots of bone tools, thousands and thousands of lithic pieces and lithic tools. It was a very rich material culture. This is the period in which we found the two bar points, dated somewhere around 15,000 years. Bar points are very rare on Eastern Adriatic before the Mesolithic, let's say. So this was very big surprise for us. For now, these two bar points, I won't say harpoons, but bar points, are probably the oldest bar points in the southeastern or southern Europe. This is also a period of some portable art. We don't have that much in Croatia. And now we have our main star, it's Lily. It's this anthropomorphic pendant, we name it Lily. It was something that was worn around somebody's neck. It is some stilized depiction of human body decorated with these hatches, these incisions, all on whole surface. I mean, I know that in Austria you are spoiled when it comes to the question of Venuses because of that pretty lady in your natural history museum. But for us, this is a very important finding because it still is the only anthropomorphic portable art in Croatia. We don't have it much. We don't have much art. We have Vela Spila, we have Romualdova, and we have Vlakno. So every finding is important for us. But what is more important? It was important for them. We did lots of analysis on this pendant. It's still not published. It will be very soon published. But as you can see, the pendant was broken here and on this side. but we found the traces that it was worn long ago after it was broken. So the person who wore it, for some reason, probably maybe the breakage happened, but still continue to wear it for a long time. That means that this pendant has pretty or large symbolic meaning for that person, for that group, because if it's just an ornament, if you break it, you will probably throw it away. It wasn't thrown away, it was worn, like I said, a long time after the breakage happened. And okay, it's not uncommon thing in Paleolithic world. Vlakno pendant is just a part of this larger symbolic and ornamental system that is existing throughout Eurasia. You can find similar pendants on the other sides. You can find similar hatches on the other portable art. So it is part of their symbolic world. Like I said, in Croatia, it's still the only one. It's not the only decorated interval. In Vlakno, there are two fragments of engraved church pebbles decorated with these abstract linear motifs. They're found in the pretty much same layers as the lily is. We don't know their meaning, what they was used for, but definitely nothing. It's nothing practical. We have a tradition of this in decorated pebbles in Vlakno, because in later period in early Holocene we have also few decorated pebbles, but not engraved, but painted with the ochre, with the red paint. We know from the analysis that these pieces were worn, tied on some kind of rope, and worn probably as an ornament together. But this is Holocene. It's just a tradition continuing on decorating those pebbles. And then at some point the progress of this epigravitian was disturbed by this natural event. Camp Flegrei eruption was affected the whole region. We have a thick layer of that tephra in Vlakno that happened somewhere around 14.5 thousand years ago. I must say, by the dates in Vlakno, it's most closely to 14 than 14.5, but that's something also that Vlakno will probably change in the future. But after this, we don't witness change. We witness continuity. That's something interesting. Layers above this tephra are pretty much the same as the one below. The material culture is pretty much the same as it was before. So it gives you something to think. Maybe the climate is not the only trigger for change. Something else needs to be done for the groups to change their behavior. That's why we have changes in Pleistocene, Holocene transitional period, and Vlakno gives you enough information to talk about that transition. What we see in Vlakno is that when Pleistocene endings and Holocene appears, that epigravitian continues to exist. There are proofs of disintegration of epigravitian, but there is also strong tradition. Changes are evident, but they are not so pronounced that we could say that it's another culture, another way of thinking. They are connected with something else. They are connected with changes in the environment. They are connected with the changes in economy, and practically like a domino, that change in climate changed the way of life for these people. And in Vlakno you can see that change. Slight change, or big change, is visible in raw material sources. We know that these groups are not mobile so much as the groups before were, but that's logical. By the end of the Pleistocene, beginning of Holocene, the sea rose. Connections with Italy, today Italy, were lost, and Vlakno is becoming, Dugi Otok is becoming an island very soon. So there is no possibility to be as mobile as they were before. But still, there are connections with those groups on Italian parts, Alpine region. Material is still presented, so they are changing their connections. They are losing some, but they are making some new connections around. Everything that we see by the end of the Pleistocene is connected with environmental change. The onset of Holocene brought changes in environment and also brought changes in economic activities. We are seeing in Vlakno that at some point the hunting became less important than it was before, and first collecting the snails and then fishing and gathering became more important than hunting in economy. But that's logical also. I mean, before you had sea miles and miles away from Vlakno, of course you would be a hunter. Now, when the sea is very close to the cave, when there is lots of fish, and there was lots of big fish around them, it's easier to collect the fish than to hunt deers that are probably rare at the Dugiotok at that time. Changes are also visible in ornamental ornaments. In Vlakno, you can see transition from this Paleolithic fashion and decoration with some glycymeris shells or with these famous deer canines, deer teeth, to the much more Mesolithic or let's say Holocene fashion that was made with this Tritia neritea and especially Columbella rustica snails. So you can follow the changes even in fashion through Vlakno layers. And fun fact, in stratum 2, number of Columbella rustica is far about what we can see local needs. There is almost 300 of them collected too, more than 200 were perforated. So we believe that Vlakno was not just some settlement that somebody used as snails to decorate themselves. There are traces of production, and we believe that Vlakno was some kind of unit for collecting, making, and storing ornaments, probably for some trade or some exchange with other group. Few more fun facts about Vlakno. On these Mesolithic levels, we found remains of the humans. Two of them were found on this level. Vlakno, one is a famous one. It's called Shime. It was burial, and it was well preserved burial of the male. But we also have other humans as well scattered around. We found pieces of the skulls and other bones from another male, probably from the same. I mean, dates are showing the same period as the first burial, but it was treated differently. Vlakno one was buried. Vlakno 2 was scattered around, so it was probably, I don't know, devastated later, or maybe nobody buried him, so it was scattered by the animals and other humans later. Unfortunately, we don't have a DNA. We have a problem with collagen on the bones, but we had other analysis made on the Vlakno 1 specimen, and we got lots of information about their way of life, about their diet, the crafts, and what they were doing during this early Holocene period. And for the last, I will just show you that we didn't waste our time on these big base camps and large excavation. We are also scattering around, trying to search for the other caves, other sites that were probably not base camps, but some short-term specialized specialized site, like Vela Pećina. One of them is Vela Pećina. It is on the island of Ugljan, very close to Vlakno. We came there 2000, I think, in 22 or 23, I'm not sure, and still we discovered a small cave with a big opening, but it was just a narrow corridor. When you're entering inside, you need to crunch yourself, but later you can walk. Normally, in this cave, we started to some small test trench. 2022, some test excavation took place, and we discovered that besides some usage in recent periods, that most of these layers belong to the late Upper Paleolithic. We got one date, and it is somewhere around 70.5 calibrated BP, and it can be connected with that almost sterile layer of stratum 9 in Vlakno. Again, I won't bother you with the details, but there is some small lithic assemblage, mainly bladelet production, maybe transformative tools indicate that the focus in this cave was on reworking and modifying blanks for some domestic purposes. But there are points and there are back bladelets that are suggesting maybe the hunting activities also happen. So it's some small specialized sites in this network, comparable to Vlakno. And this excavation gives us a larger picture, at least for some periods. Vlakno and Vela are same when you look at their bases. They have small assemblages when we compare stratum 9 to this Vela Pećina. It's similar typology, not technology. This is wrong. Wrong. I changed it. I should change it. The typology is same, but both sites have different morphology tool and probably related functions. So function of the site is different. Both of the sites are logistical camps, but Vlakno, during this earliest periods, were probably a base camp. Vela, on the other hand, was a logistical camp used for specialized activities, and they are both parts of the bigger system of using the Adriatic plain. That gives us enough information about the groups that were using this Adriatic plain, and these sites capture a snapshot of hunter-gatherer adaptation on the outset of LGM and during that transitional period, and how the different places were used in different manners. And that will be all for about our research. It's not the end. I still have 2 slides more because we won't stop on these sides. We have lots of work to do on the other side. We already started to do lots of work. Our perspective for future is very good. There are few sites that are showing lots of potential. One of them is this one. It's Kozja Peć on Dugi Otok. Test trench reveal layers of this fumier from antique Roman period up to late Neolithic, let's say, but there is plenty of things to do below that. We had that hunch that we will probably hit some older periods as well, not just stayed on this prehistoric and Roman period layers. And my late friend and colleague Martina Dubonic-Glavan did some excellent work on the Velebit region. She mapped almost every speleological object on that part, so we have a pretty good starting point to start excavating or searching through Velebit area. We know that from Forenbacher excavation and from a recent excavation that my colleague Maja Grgovic-Srnetić is doing that at least 2 sites are have a very good possibility to hit the older periods, but there are also several other sites. one is very interesting, but I won't tell you for now anything because we are still waiting for the results of the analysis. But Vujevic is a rich area and it shows lots of potential for the future work. Only if few of us could clone, and maybe we will find something in the next few years. But we still have power, we still have energy, and I hope that future will bring us more interesting sites. Anyway, that's something to discuss in the future when you call me once more. I hope you will call me once again to give you some more recent advances in research. Thank you once more. Sorry, I don't know about the time. Did I? Thank you.